Well, hello, everybody. This is Dr. Bruce Faske from Arkansas State University, coming live from my office, room 234 in the Fine Arts Building at Arkansas State University. I am going to be breaking down number 16 from the ASBOA Junior High All Region Etudes for 2022-2023. This is from the Gerald Bordner First Book of Practical Studies for Trombone and Baritone. It's a great little book, a lot of good stuff in here, and I'm going to show you how to put your best foot forward now so that that fall audition isn't so daunting when you get there. Okay, so Bordner 16 is a pretty straightforward etude, but there's a few things that I want to talk about before I play it for you to help you get everything set up the way that you need to have the most efficient practice and to get the most out of your experience. First, I want to tell you that you need a couple of tools. The most important one that you need, above all else, is this guy, a pencil. You probably have heard this 1,000 times for your band directors. Have a pencil on your stand at all times. Even better, if you can find a way to clip it to your horn, that's even better. Have it with you so that you can make decisions, and then if you need to change those decisions, you can use the eraser on the back end. No harm, no foul. It was just an idea. It didn't work out. Move on to something else. The next thing that I would tell you that you're going to need is some form of metronome and some form of tuner. And then probably like me, they're on your phone, which is right there that I'm using to record this video. And speaking of that, have something that you can use to record your practice. Video is great. Audio is fine as well. But the ability to split out the playing of the instrument and the judgment of what you just played is really important. So if you can set up your camera app and you can prop it up against some books, or if you have a tripod, listen to yourself. Put the trombone on a trombone stand or on the floor, grab your pencil that I know you're going to have on your stand, and be able to mark in the things that you weren't happy with so that you can know what to practice next time and you can sort of keep moving forward in the process. Okay, so now we have the tools set. So now we dive into the music. So Bordner number 16 is in the key of E flat major. It may vary from beginning to end somewhere. I don't think this one does, but we're dealing with the key of E flat. So you should familiarize yourself with the E flat major scale. Get really comfortable with that scale. There are no range concerns that I can think of. There are no really odd slide position things to consider, with the exception of, if you don't have the book itself that explains this, the 3 followed by the 1 in parentheses under the first measure of the second line. The trombone position is the regular number, and then the euphonium fingering is the number that's in parentheses. So forget the 1. I had a student that came in one time and was playing their C's above the staff with the thumb valve, with the F attachment valve, because they saw that 1 and thought that was an option. Yes, you can play the note there, but I would never recommend that anyone play that note there. Play the C in third position. Okay, beyond that, we need to look at the terms. And the term, the singular term here, is andante. And I'm just going to tell you that that word means walking speed, or going at a walking speed. It's not really a specific number. It's a range of numbers. So if you're 6'6", your walking speed will be different than if you're 4'6". Longer legs move faster. So we have a little bit of variation. And the next point that I'm going to tell you about style will also help dictate a little bit about which way we go with that andante term. So you take your pencil and you write in walking speed next to andante so that you have that translation on the page and you don't have to commit it to memory. It's right there on paper on purpose. So now the style. If we're going to go a sort of generally moderate tempo, and I see a lot of slurs on the page, I'm inclined to think that it's a more lyrical etude. And I think that that's probably a safe bet. Now, when you're working on this, I think it's also really important to remember that at the end of these groupings of notes with slurs, that you don't clip the last note. If you do that, it ends up sounding like this. To me, that doesn't sound very lyrical. And if we're making a decision about the style, then that lyrical decision is going to predicate all of our other decisions about note length. And lyrical playing, for the most part, It's not just about legato. It's not just about da tongue. It's not just about connectivity. It's about making sure that the back half of the note, the longer note, is played full value so that it touches the next note. Legato notes are notes that touch. So, we're going to play through the first line, which is also the first phrase, subdividing everything to the eighth note. Now, what happens when I subdivide everything to the eighth note is that it forces me to wait longer on that quarter note in measure 1, and the quarter note in measure 2, and the quarter note in measure 3. It makes me stay on that note for 2 full eighth notes worth of time. Now, you and I both know that a quarter note is worth 2 eighth notes worth of time. But sometimes in our eagerness to get through the phrase, maybe we have a little bit more air demand than what we're comfortable with, so we're trying to keep things moving forward. We sort of shortchange that note length in order to move on to the next thing or to make room for a breath. And so I like to keep myself honest by subdividing everything to the eighth, maybe checking that with a metronome as well on eighth notes at the tempo that we choose. And then one of the easiest things that you can do in most metronome apps, and I can't demonstrate because I'm recording with my phone, there's a function at the bottom of the metronome screen in Tonal Energy and some of the other apps that just simply says tap. And you can tap what you think the tempo is for 3 or 4 or 5 times, and it will tell you on the screen like what tempo you're tapping after a while. And so that's a great way to check yourself. So use the metronome. Subdivide to eighth notes. Make sure that you're holding the long notes out full value, so that even though we're dealing with groupings of 3 notes and 2 notes and 3 notes and 2 notes, that we have that overall sense of lyricism and connectivity throughout the whole phrase. So rather than the fragmented thing that I just demonstrated, we can do this. And so on and so forth. It allows me to get a better idea of style and a more convicting performance of that style for the listener. Now, a couple of things to remember. Make sure that the A natural that's in the third measure of the second line carries through the bar so that you don't play A flat on the upbeat of 3 right before the end of the second phrase. Be careful with those things and mark them out. If you think you might miss it, it's better for you to mark it. Now, the final thing that I want to say here, because I'm going to wrap these videos up at about 10 minutes each. If I play this according to what Mr. Bordner has written on the page, mezzo forte in measure 1 on beat 1 and on Dante at the very beginning, and there's no really other information other than that slide position / euphonium fingering thing, it comes across to me a little bit like a plain bologna sandwich. White bread, bologna, white bread. Most people want a little something extra. Or if you don't like bologna sandwiches, you probably like hot dogs. A plain hot dog just on the bun with nothing else, sorry, not my cup of tea, not my thing. I'm going to add a little bit of something extra. So we talked about that phrase structure, how it's 4 measure phrases. If you need to breathe in that 4 measure phrase, try to find something near the middle. Try to create some level of symmetry, particularly because I'm going to ask you to maybe do a little crescendo on this end and a little diminuendo on this end so that your music goes up and then it comes down. Or in other cases throughout the etude, it may just grow for 4 full bars over the course of one phrase, and then over the next phrase, it may die away from a peak to a valley. Whatever it is that you choose to do musically here to add a little bit of something extra, I really hope that you take some time in conjunction with your band director or private lesson teacher to talk about some things that you can do musically to make this more compelling. And for me, if I take my pencil and I mark out my phrases and I know where all my breaths are and I know what I want to do with the dynamics, let's say that I want to go from mezzo forte at the beginning to forte at the peak of the first phrase, then I need to write that new dynamic in and I need to write that crescendo in the part. I want to make sure that I am committing to it. And one of the easiest things that I can do to help myself when I'm struggling with committing to a musical concept is to create a story for the music. I want to create a story. And what the contents of the story are mean nothing to anyone other than me. But I take one word that kind of gets me into that mode of that story, and then I'm ready to play. And those things help me when I'm nervous, when I'm freaking out about the audition itself, and some kid from the next town over just played their heart out, played the best audition ever, and now I have no chance. Instead of worrying about that kid, I can just focus on my music, and I can focus on my storytelling through music. And I really think that can help. So if my story is about ballet dancing elephants, then I might write elephant on the top of my page. I don't know. It doesn't matter what it is. I'm making a silly example so that you can remember it. But I hope this helps. And I'm going to play through here as we wrap up so you can hear sort of my ideas of how I might play this with a little bit of something extra. Now, I like food, so if I'm going to have that hot dog, it's going to have chili, onions, cheese, mustard, probably some relish. You want to be careful that you don't overload it, but you also want to find that correct mix. So here we go. As we wrap up, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you got something out of it. If you'd like me to record the other ones, I'm going to do that for you sometime soon. So here we go. Number 16 with a little bit of something extra.